Okay, Thursday morning, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Things are good. I've had a bit of sun. Forgot the protection today, Josh, but we all make mistakes. Just to address that, because I know a million people will in the comments. I'll deal with it one day. Lovely to have you on, Josh. How's things?
Yeah, all good. I think I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum from you. No sunburn, just a bit of the cold and a blocked nose, but we soldier on.
It just shows how big the world is, I guess. But we've got Celtic in common, and we're still reeling, or whatever other word you want to use to describe how we're feeling after Tuesday. I guess reeling's the wrong word because it was pretty good. We've not had you on, I guess, since the game, so I do want to chat a little bit about it, and then we'll generally move on because we're playing Hibs tomorrow. But what have you made of the past 36? No, longer than that, isn't it? Since full time, how have the emotions gone?
Yeah, I think the biggest emotion is pride and being proud of the team, because I thought for me, as a 19-year-old, it's the best I've ever seen Celtic play away in Europe, particularly in the Champions League against one of the top sides in the continent. They done so well, defended so well, took their chance when it came. Could have been a bit more clinical in front of goal. I think we'd all agree that. And it's just one moment where someone switches off at the back post for a goal in the end, and that's the fine margins at that level. But I think the team can be so proud of their efforts in Europe this season. It's been one of the best European campaigns in a long while. The memories the fans will have made, not just at Celtic Park, but on the road too. So it's been a really successful European campaign. The target was obviously to get out of the initial league phase and into a knockout stage playoff. Achieved the target, and it says a lot about how Celtic done that. You're sitting here disappointed that they didn't even make it through that knockout stage playoff as well. So it's got a wee bit more luck with the draw and final placings in the league phase. I seen some of the upsets last night. PSV Eindhoven going through, Feyenoord went through on Tuesday night. So I think there's a lot of a cause for optimism for Celtic in Europe nowadays.
Definitely. And listen, apologies. I know tomorrow is Friday's. Thanks for pointing that out. I did say we're playing Hibs tomorrow. It is Saturday, of course, but generally, yeah. I mean, I feel pretty good about things. It's it's such a bitter blow on Tuesday, but I think there's so many positives to be taken away. That actually, the more I think about Tuesday night, the better I feel about the performance. Away to one of the giants of Europe in a proper Champions League knockout tie. Meaning so much to them, as much to them as it did us, with the final being in Munich this year, and just the way we played. For me, it was probably up there with the best away performances I've ever seen in terms of organisation, but also carrying a real threat going forward. And you can't help but imagine how good we could be next season with a further year of experience under our belts.
Definitely. I think as well, just the result on Tuesday in isolation, a 1-1 draw away at Bayern Munich is a terrific result.
With them scoring in the last minute as well. I mean, we're 30 seconds from beating them.
When there could have easily been a foul in the build-up to it, but the less said about that, the better. Going into next season, like you say, there's so much optimism. If Celtic can strengthen it this summer, we already know Kieran Tierney is going to be coming back to the club. People will have concerns over his fitness. There's also other areas of the squad that will need to be strengthened. But if Brendan Rodgers is backed, and I think he needs to be, he's proved that at this level he's an elite manager. I think one of the key points I would note from Tuesday actually is the way, I've never really seen him that animated on a touchline before. I don't know if people picked up on that, the way he was coaching the players through the game. He was shouting at them, giving them instructions. I rarely ever see him like that. And you can tell how much that meant to him, how much he meant to the players during the game, and then the reactions after it as well. But next season, it's obviously have to navigate a playoff. I think if Celtic are seeded, that can be a bit iffy sometimes, but it should be a formality. Then why not dream again next season and look for more progress?
I think it's a good point you make about Brendan Rodgers, and it's something I did notice. I think it's pretty clear. I think it's pretty clear to everyone at Celtic that obviously the domestic stuff is always bread and butter is always the phrase that people trot out for that stuff. That's the stuff that keeps you going, really. But I think it is the European stuff now that we as fans are really focusing on. That those are the games that give you the real excitement and the drive, and they're the ones that keep you up late at night thinking about them. And I think the players are like that, and I think the manager is like that as well. And I think you do see him being a bit more animated. There's occasions domestically where the Aberdeen Cup semi was I thought it was really animated that day. That was the slipped and fell, but I think there's no doubt that when it comes to the European games, I think clearly he knows the stakes are that bit higher. We've not got quite as well, nowhere near as much margin for error, and you definitely see him like that. But I'm so happy where this team is going domestically. We're doing brilliantly. We're looking good for 4 in a row. These are amazing days. And now what we've been crying out for years as fans is some sort of progress in Europe. And I'm already looking at next season, and I know we've got to get through a round of qualifying, and this may be a huge ask of this team. But I'm already kind of thinking, can you get back into the league phase? Can you finish in the top 24 again and get back to the stage where you were? Because we've got to continually see that progression. We are, however, returning back to domestic stuff, Josh. So no more European games for the rest of the season, and I do want to transition us back into that today. How are you feeling about the rest of the domestic season? What's on your mind most about what's to come?
Yeah, I think there's a big opportunity for Celtic. The manager talks about opportunity a lot, and that's what there is between now and the end of the season. Celtic will never won 8 trebles, and I think a lot of us forget about that in modern day. The fact that it's a feat that's not been achieved so often, but they're becoming semi-regular nowadays. So it's a massive opportunity to complete another domestic clean sweep. It would be Rodgers' third, and I think before Celtic could win the league before the split if they win all their games, I believe. So there's a lot of opportunities for them. One thing I would note is when you go from losing in the 94th minute in a tie to Bayern Munich and then having to reset your mind to go again domestically for your bread and butter, it can be very difficult in terms of the mindset of the players. But one thing I would say is Brendan Rodgers doesn't let complacency creep into this Celtic team in no manner at all. So I think they do have enough to get the job done and complete the clean sweep between now and the end of the season, more than enough.
Yeah, I spoke about this with John and Tony yesterday. Like, you're right, when you go from the highs of the Allianz Arena, one of the most famous stadiums, arenas on the planet, and playing so well. That was really kind of that 90 odd minutes until we equalised was kind of as good as we've had it as Celtic fans in Europe for certainly over a decade. Away from home playing like that, and going from the high the players must have felt in terms of the way they played, and you can tell that from their posts online. Alistair Johnson, Nicholas Kuhn, Real Hattati all posting proud, and I think what was Hattati's post, limitless possibilities or something kind of cryptic like that. The players clearly felt the high as well as the low, the real low at the end of the game. Point I'm making is they're now going from that to Easter Road, and I think some of the time you'd look at that as being quite a difficult thing. I just get the impression, I could be totally wrong here, and I think Saturday will be a tough game because Hibs are one of the form teams in the league. But I just think now, looking at domestic stuff, Celtic might take a little bit of that anger and injustice maybe that they feel from Wednesday night. They might take that out on Scottish football for the rest of the season. I wouldn't be totally surprised if in meetings this week ahead of the Hibs game, there's almost been a bit of a reset for the players and Brendan Rodgers. I wouldn't be surprised if Brendan Rodgers is saying, let's not lose another game this season, or possibly even let's win every game. Because, it's obviously a real tall order, but you're talking, what is it, 12 league games, something like that left, and possibly 3 in the Cup. So I just wonder if he's going to say, use the horrible feeling from full-time on Wednesday. We'll worry about Europe next season, but for the rest of the season, let's push on. Let's obliterate Rangers a couple of times and win the treble again.
Yeah, I think 15 games to go, and the one thing that is positive is there's not much of a packed schedule between now and the end of the season. I think there's 2 midweek games left because you'll have the Aberdeen game on Tuesday, and then you have a midweek game in the split. So that's a positive. I think so. That's just going by my thoughts, but I think that's positive as well. And 15 wins, obviously, if they progress in the Cup, I think is a big possibility. And you've seen that happen before, Celtic bouncing back from the European scene and just rampaging domestically and tearing teams apart. They've got the ability to do it. Because you look at the lead at the top of the table, that just tells you all you need to know about how far ahead Celtic are between them and the rest of the Scottish Premiership. So that's definitely a possibility, Hamish. I would agree with you there. The likes of Nicholas Kuhn coming into form, Daizen Maeda, these guys can just blow away teams left, right, and centre. And I think one game that Rodgers will benchmark definitely is that game against Rangers on the 16th.
Yeah.
You look at the result. The last time the sides met at Ibrox, Rangers blew Celtic away that day. I don't think that's controversial to say, 3-0. So I think Rodgers, there'll be something sticking in his mind that he will want to really put on a show that day, especially at Celtic Park in front of their own fans, and put that loss at New Year well behind him. I think that'll be a game he's benchmarking. Then obviously the return game at Ibrox, and then the Scottish Cup. You talk about Rodgers' phenomenal record in cup competitions. The law of averages, he will lose a game here and there, but you look at the teams that are left in the Scottish Cup. Hibs at home should take care of itself. Then you've got Hampden against either Aberdeen, Hearts, probably, or Livingston or St Johnstone. So the Scottish Cup is another real possibility, and you wouldn't be surprised, like you say, if Celtic even won 15 out of 15 games, even if they secure the title the last league match before the split.
Yeah. I mean, does anyone else out there think that's a possibility? I mean, that would be an unbelievable end to what has been an amazing season if that was to happen. It's a big ask.
It is a big ask, and like you say, if you win the league, it's so easy. We've seen it in the past, even with those teams that you kind of take your foot off the gas. I remember going to Easter Road and losing 4-2 after the title was won, losing 3-0 at Ibrox. So that kind of lack of motivation can be something.
Yeah,
but there's still the incentive there, definitely, for Celtic to go out on the high this season.
Right, just a couple of comments. Bhoys saying, big come down going from the Aliens to Easter Road. You're right, but also there could be bigger come downs. I mean, it could be like Dingwall or St Johnstone or somewhere we're heading. Like Hibs away is always a game I look forward to, probably more than most games. I always think it's like a good atmosphere at Easter Road, especially kind of Saturday lunchtime. I always think, especially when Hibs have their tails up a little bit. So I don't think we can afford to be lethargic or off our game this week. I think in a way it's a good game. Like, as I say, maybe if you were going to St Johnstone or someone like that, or even a game at Celtic Park, maybe it could be a bit flat. But I think, it's always quite a vibrant game at Easter Road, and we're going to have to be on it. So I think it's quite a good game to have this weekend. Yeah,
definitely. The pitch at Easter Road always feels suits Celtic style, big pitch, big stadium, and it's a real chance for them to really bounce back. And like you say, Hibs, the form team in the league, they've always got attacking threats. Martin Boyle is always a top player, so their goalkeeper is in good form as well at the minute. I believe Matt Smith, I want to say his name is, had a good performance against St Mirren last weekend. So yeah, Hibs are always a tough challenge. And Rodgers' record at Easter Road up until recent times isn't particularly good. And like we say, David Gray's men have got their tails up, so it'll be interesting to see how the game goes. Obviously, I think Celtic will be looking to really put on a show, like you say, and take their anger out on Hibernian.
Have we been there this season?
Yeah, second game in, 2-0. McGregor scored.
So it was.
Nicholas Kuhn scored a real comfortable afternoon. I was actually looking at pictures for that game the other day. Mikey Johnston was on playing and people like that. So it was Odin Holm, I think, as well. So that just shows how much the team has even changed between the beginning of the season and now, which is quite stark.
That was a game when Kyogo went down with an injury, and that kind of prompted us to, I think, move for Adam Ida. It's weird how things change. Mark, only 7 league games until the split, 4 of them at home to Aberdeen, Hearts, Rangers, Kilmarnock, which is, that's 4 pretty good games, plus a home game against Hibs in the Scottish Cup. So, all the big teams in the country really coming to Celtic Park, which I'll be honest, I didn't really realise. I've been quite focused on Champions League and stuff like that, so that's going to be exciting. Jungle Line, bringing up your point, after Aberdeen next week, it's basically 1 game a week until the end of the season. Perfect for this team. I feel a bit sad in a way that it's only 1 game a week. It's so after kind of Aberdeen in next midweek, that's we've come through this ultra marathon that Brendan Rodgers spoke about. It's kind of sad that it's over. It's been quite a ridiculous period, hasn't it? But things will be a bit different when it's 1 game a week. I mean, there won't be as much rotation in the team and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the start of the season we saw that in terms of 1 game a week, how well Celtic were playing. They made a terrific start to the season, and the manager, Brendan Rodgers, touched on that at the time there, where he said that I don't have a lot of opportunities to change my team when it's 1 game a week, just because if the team plays well 1 week, I can't make 3 or 4 changes like he is doing with the ultra marathon scheduling. On the ultra marathon, Celtic have came through it admirably. They've done so well. I can think of one or two times they've dropped points in the league. The 3 each game at Dundee, where Engel scores a penalty late on, the game at Ibrox, and I can't really recall any other times they've dropped points. So the team have been so consistent. The depth has proved crucial. The lack of injuries has proved crucial as well. But a lot of that goes down to the manager and the way he's rotated the squad. You need to be wise with that, manage the players' workload and how many minutes they're playing. And he's done so well. And the Ultramarathon deserves a lot of credit. But like you say, 1 game a week between now and the end of the season, you back Celtic to keep up that consistency of results and performances.
Yeah, so we're... I'm ignoring that message for John. We covered it at the start, John. I hope you were watching. Clearly, John just comes in for the second half of the video. He's at the wind up. Yeah, I mean we're back to the domestic stuff, as we say, and I think it's a good point here just to kind of think about what we want to see for the rest of the season, because there's been a bit of chat, hasn't there? And I've not really paid too much attention to it. Not really, but a bit of chat about San Francisco 49ers, is it? I don't really follow NFL too much. Their owners potentially taking over our rivals and chucking in money, and them giving up all their various tradition and all that just to try and be ahead of us, which kind of tells you where they've got to in their kind of place. But I think it's not a bold statement to say the reality is here that we're going to see more Celtic dominance for times to come, regardless of all of that. Certainly for the rest of this season, the likelihood is, clearly we're going to win the league and we're big favourites to win another treble. We're going to have 2 derbies against them, and you've already mentioned that they're big ones, and I agree totally. If you're asking me, between now and the end of the season, what do I really want from this season to cap it off? Clearly the treble is number 1. That's the most important thing. Win all 3 trophies, which I think we can. Obviously, I think we will. I really want to put Rangers in their place in the one-off matches against them, because the last couple, I think they've maybe kind of had a number a wee bit. Certainly it was an off day at Ibrox. The cup final, I'm wary of saying that because who ended up with the trophy? We did. But, that game at Celtic Park especially, I think that's a big day. This Celtic team, as I say, take a bit of the anger you maybe felt, the injustice you felt at the Allianz Arena. And I know the game's a month away, but take it out on them that day and show how much of a better team you are than them.
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned earlier, I think Rodgers will benchmark that game as the one where Celtic looked to get somewhat of revenge on Rangers, if you could even call it that, but not really turned up in the last, the derby at Ibrox, and then obviously you see you're wary saying that for the cup final, but at the same time, I think Rangers did somewhat have Celtic's number that day in a penalty shootout. It's a lottery, as we say, anything can happen. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes tactically, because I think Rangers have kind of been more willing to sit in the last couple of games and be more aggressive, though, with Celtic. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think on the 49ers thing, just going back to that, they haven't won an NFL title since 1995, so I would note that down. It's particularly interesting. But yeah, that game, 16th of March, it's St Patrick's weekend, I believe, so that adds another wee thing into it for Celtic. So Rodgers will be out to obliterate Rangers that day. I don't think that's controversial to say. I think his pride was somewhat hurt after the game at Ibrox. He'd only ever lost 1 derby before, the 1-0, the Ryan Jack goal. So now, after losing 3-0, his biggest loss to Rangers, he will be out for revenge that you would not imagine. He will have the players fired up for it. And Rangers will be playing on the Thursday night before that in the second leg of the Europa League tie. Celtic will have a full week of rest going into it. So I think all the cards stack up in Celtic's favour going into that game.
So what's like on your mind that you want to tick off between now and the end of the season? Clearly a treble is important. Is there anything away from the treble and beating Rangers that's kind of on your mind that you'd really like to see the team do?
I think that's predominantly it. And obviously you want to see the team win every game they can and play the best they can in every possible game. Like you say, the fixture card is decent between now and the split. So if you can win all the games between now and the split, you'll have won the league. You'll be into the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup, and you'll be 2 games away from completing a treble. So for me, completing the treble is the priority. And then, like you say, those 2 games against Rangers, I think the game at Celtic Park should take care of itself. But for me particularly, the one at Ibrox sticks out, because last couple of times Celtic have been to Ibrox, they failed to win, get beat 3-0, drew 3 each with a last minute equaliser from Matondo, 1-1-0 obviously with the Kyogo goal, the volley into the bottom corner. So I think it'll be very interesting to see if Celtic can win at Ibrox for the first time since what would be September 2023. That game won't be played till May 2025, so almost 2 years. I think for me that could be a big one, even though the league will be probably all but won by then, if not won. The players showing that mentality to go into the games. We've seen it before in somewhat dead rubber Celtic Rangers games where Rangers have run riot. You could argue the one in December was a dead rubber game, according to some people, and Rangers run riot. So in the dead rubber game at Ibrox, proving that they can go and win at the home of their fiercest rivals would be a big thing for me as well.
Some people might be hoping for some Brendan Rodgers contract news. Scott bringing that up. He's out of contract at the end of next season. It was a 3-year deal he signed. So Scott saying a Brendan Rodgers contract signing. See, from memory, in his first year at the club, I think, because he joined initially on a rolling contract, I believe,
Yeah.
and then signed. I think they made a big announcement about a lengthy contract, hence the Brendan Rodgers is here for 10 in a row song. I think that was around about this point in his first season. Maybe a few weeks later, it was maybe around about the split time. So I just wonder if that is something we might see between now and the end of the season.
Yeah.
Certainly, clearly Brendan Rodgers is going to be here for next season at the very least.
Yeah.
But it does seem to me, like, from things he's saying, and obviously you can never be too sure of these things because it changes so quickly, as we know. But it does seem to me that he's really wanting to build something and be around and leave a real positive, lasting legacy at Celtic and be remembered for the good rather than the bad. And there's no doubt the good with Brendan Rodgers has like massively outweighed the bad. I mean, we're talking about one of the best Celtic managers in our history. But I think he wants to, I don't know, I think potentially he wants to be remembered as maybe the second best manager, and certainly in the last 70 years since Jock Stein. And what he needs to do for that is probably go on a real European run, and he probably feels that that's possible. So basically what I'm saying is I think he might want to stay more than 3 years, and I would love the club to announce that. I mean, what a boost that would be to everyone if the club announced that he'd signed a new deal. So that might be something people are looking out for.
I think it's the perfect time as well, because I don't think you want to be going into next season with that dark cloud hanging over your head that Rodgers' contract is up at the end of the campaign, and if it doesn't get renewed, that will just bite away throughout the season. So I think renewing it between now and the end of this campaign or over the summer would be the ideal time, and it is the ideal time. The chips are down now. Celtic are out of Europe. We've talked about the fixture schedule. It's one game a week basically now between now and the end of the season. So there is nothing to say that the club can't be working in the background to sort that. I think as well, like you say, Rodgers, he spoke about it after the game on Tuesday night. He wants Celtic to be a seasoned team at Champions League level. So that suggests to me that he wants to be in it for the long term. I think the interview I done with Martin O'Neill on Amazon Prime just before the Bayern game, it went up on YouTube, was particularly interesting, and I think there was a lot of insight there into talking about how he would like to. You obviously have to take some words at face value, but that he wants to stay at Celtic long term, and I think he will. I think the board will eventually offer him that contract. He does, like we say, have previous of walking away, etc. mid-season, but you look at what he said in the past in terms of I didn't realise what I lost until I came back to the club, and everything like that points towards him staying long term, whether it's a 2-year extension, a 3-year extension, a new 4-year deal, whatever it is. I think he can be in it for the long term. And it's not as if he's getting old either. He's still very young. He still knows how to operate teams at the elite level, like we've seen in the Champions League this season. So that would be the most almighty boost, I would argue, if Celtic could get that sorted, and I would hope they can.
Yeah, I mean, it's Steve McGrory, who's always, worth listening to in these things, saying Brendan has said a couple of times that when he reaches the end of his contract, he'll have been here for 6 years. Just shy of 6 seasons, isn't it? So don't think he'll extend. So it's one to watch. I guess player-wise as well, thinking about it, there's a few players in that squad that I'm really hoping to really see an emergence from. Emergence is maybe too strong a word because a lot of them have already arrived. But, I really want some players to by the end of the season to be really ready to properly star for Celtic next season. Adam Idah would be one. I think he's got a big opportunity between now and the end of the season. I really like Adam Idah. People will be tired of me saying that. I think he has a hell of a lot to offer, but I think he's yet to really become that out and out reliable goal scorer every game. And I think between now and the end of the season, Adam Idah can, 15 games? Can you go and hit double figures, 12 goals between now and the end of the season? Like, really set yourself a target. Arnie Engels is another one, the way he plays in Munich the other night. Go and find that, really consistently become a star for us so that next season we're talking about you the same way as we talk about Nicholas Kuhn or someone like that. I think Trusty and Carter Vickers become a partnership. I thought the two of them were magnificent in Munich. I thought Austin Trusty had a great game in Munich, and go and become a solidified partnership that we can hang our hat on for next season. So I mean, there's things there for the players to really sort between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, 100%. Adam Idah's a big one. He's already on, despite a lot of the criticism surrounding him, 13 goals, and with, like, say, about 15 games to go.
Hit 20 pretty comfortably, yeah.
He will hit 20, and you never know if he bags a hat-trick one game. You could be looking at 25 between now and the end of the season. I think he does have a lot of progression to make in his game, but like you've said, he's still just young, 23, 24. There's every opportunity for him, and I think Roger's comments about not particularly wanting to play Maeda through the middle as his first priority gives Idah a chance, particularly domestically, because recently domestically he's been pretty good. It's just the two games against Bayern he was not great, but yeah, I think he's a big one. Jeffrey Schlupp, whether he renews in the summer, whether Celtic look to sign him, I thought he was terrific on Tuesday night, a particular standout for me. Luke McCowan could be another one. Obviously, with Paulo Bernardo out injured the next couple of weeks, can he really take the bull by the horns? But it's very difficult because it's one game a week. Are you going to be able to fight your way into the team? So yeah, it'll be interesting. Yang is another one as well. I thought he showed some flashes recently.
Not convinced, mate, but I'm happy for you to put your case forward.
Yang Gang CSC or whatever it might be called. I'm following it on Twitter. Interesting to see how he does. I think we did see the drop off in quality though when Kuhn came off for Yang during the week in the Champions League. So domestically he looks all right, shows flashes at times, but can he be more consistent between now and the end of the season? Is a big one as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of players there. Jota's another one I'm thinking of in terms of, what can he offer? Can we get him fully up to speed? Jason wondering, is James Forrest ready yet? I believe the latest was last week he was back in training, so I think we'll see James Forrest pretty soon. He's been a huge miss for us in recent weeks. James Forrest, I think, was having a great season up until that point.
Another big thing I would say, we're talking about what do we want at Celtic between now and the end of the season? A James Forrest goal to keep his streak of scoring in consistent seasons going, because he's not scored.
Is he not? Dear.
He's not scored this season. So if he can return from injury, get him a goal.
He'll score. I'm certain of that. Has he not scored a goal at all?
He's not scored this season. I'm just going to double check that, actually. I don't think he has, because he's been injured for a good while now. So let's just go and have a look. James Forrest, 0 goals, 5 assists in 23 games.
I'm stunned.
That's another big one for me, keeping the streak going.
I think James Forrest will score. I'm pretty sure he'll come on and score between now and the end of the season. John pointing out that for some reason John's still with us, but he's pointing out that there's a close look at Yang coming up in the site from Alan Morrison, who's always worth a read there. So you can check that out, everyone. And yeah, the other comment we just got in there was Duncan saying, the good thing about this summer's window is we don't need 8 or 9. 3 or 4 quality signings will be good. Yeah, we're really at a point where it's not like a massive squad restructuring that we need. It really, and it's a weird one because obviously you're not going to sign backup players because we know that doesn't work. We don't want projects and backup players. We want players who can immediately improve the first team. But I actually think the actual starting lineup, take the lineup we had in Munich, for example, and put Tierney in for Schlupp, because that'll be it next season. I think that team is exceptional. And I think that can clearly compete at the top level. The issue for me, and we saw it on Tuesday night, was there's not great strength and depth. And I know that Forrest probably would have been a sub had he been fit. Bernardo definitely would have come on. So it was harsh, but you're going to have injuries. And I feel that after losing Kyogo, we do seem a little bit short on the wings in terms of quality coming on. Palma, I guess, is someone who left as well in January. So I think really signing a couple of quality players, 2 quality attackers, a forward, we're going to have to sign a striker, and another quality winger, just so you have quality coming off the bench, because I think that's a big thing for us at the level. But in terms of the actual starting lineup, I think it's really strong for the top level.
Yeah, the first choice starting lineup can compete at Champions League level. We've seen it during the week. It's just about, yet again, the manager spoke about it after the game, is that quality coming off the bench. I was actually looking at the bench during Tuesday night's game and looking at the players on it, and you're thinking, would you be confident of them coming on in a game like this? Perhaps Adamida is probably the only one, like McCowan, maybe at a stretch. The rest of them, players like, no disrespect to these guys, because I think they could have bright futures. Johnny Kenny, Dane Murray, I do like Yang, but at Champions League level, probably can't cut it just yet. So it's about, like you say, bolstering the squad to bring in those 2 or 3 quality players who can come in. I think in terms of positions wise, obviously Tierney's coming back, but you'll need another left back there. You'll be looking at a forward, perhaps a winger. But one positive is Celtic have really got over that kind of car crash of a summer 2023 transfer window. You had guys like Kwon, Palma, Lagerbielke, and Nawrocki. A lot of these guys aren't in the club anymore. You could probably rhyme off another 3 names to me there, and they'd probably not been good enough for Celtic. So I think they're over that. In terms of recruitment, I think there are underlying concerns in terms of the business that was carried out in January. You look at Jeffrey Schlupp didn't get the phone call until 2 p.m. So what the club probably knew Alex Valle was leaving for a good period. So what was happening in the background there? The striker hunt obviously failed. The manager wasn't given the striker he wanted. Obviously, there's a lot of things that could factor in there that we don't know behind the scenes, but I think recruitment in the summer will be very interesting.
Well, I mean, Hazel just bringing up the team is good, it's the bench that needs improved, as I said. That won't be easy. Who wants to sit on the bench? Well, I think the simple thing is you sign players to play, and then potentially some of them either take the places of players who are currently in the team, which is just gradual progression, or you then have players kind of like Bernardo, who maybe don't start the big games. Occasionally they do, but generally when the big games come around, they don't start, but they're really good subs and they're a hell of a lot better than some of the players we've seen. So listen, everything is good, mate. Final comment and then we'll head.
Yeah, I was just going to say there, if you're good enough, you'll play. So if you bring in these guys, they're not consistently going to sit on the bench. There will be, in a 50, 60 game season, several opportunities for quality players to start. So that's one thing I would say at the end there.
Okay, Josh, it's been great to have you on and hear your thoughts and things. People can get more from you, I'm sure, on the channel, the website, etc. So it's been good to have you on. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I'm actually off tomorrow. I had some patter about being sunburnt, but we've done all that, mate, so we won't have to go in. John's ruined all that, so he'll be back. I don't know if he's on tomorrow or whatever. I don't take anything to do with this when I'm off, but I'm sure there will be 2 better guys than me, certainly on tomorrow, looking ahead to the game against Hibs. We've barely mentioned that today, so we've left that for them tomorrow. So enjoy the game, enjoy your weekend, everyone. I'll chat to you on Monday morning. Speak to you then.